nice comment in there who said that Anthony Robinson went down into the championship, learned how to get a little bit tougher, learned how to fight in maybe a way that he didn't have to previously. And now we're seeing how much he's improved over the last year. And obviously he's translated that into interest from some big clubs.
Very different profiles though.
No, totally. I say this acknowledging that Serginho Dest has more talent in his pinky than I have in my whole body. But do you think that we want him to be better than he is, Heath? That he has obviously all the attacking ability. Maybe I should bring this back a little bit, because I always feel like there's, and I've mentioned this before, there's just something about the game that you love, and that's why you play. And for me, when I look at Serginho, it's just going forward. He just wants to combine. He wants to join the attack. And when he's going forward and has time and space to make that happen, it's almost like you can see the smile on his face. But doing the thankless defensive work, which I still feel like defending's a lost art, he just doesn't have that same smile. It's definitely running uphill when he's defending and running downhill when he's attacking.
Yeah.
And I wonder how he tries to solve that when instinctually he just doesn't do the little things that are necessary. And I know we touched upon it with Anthony a little bit in these last couple of games where he's a little bit in that space too, but I still think Anthony's maybe willing to put in that work a little more than Serginho. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, it's that turning point for anybody that's got a good mentor or a coach around them that goes, look, you've got this in spades, right? You've got this technical ability. You've got this ability to play the game at a high level when the ball's at your feet. But these are the other pieces you need to add to your game, right? Like I said, you need to find a way to be impactful if you're not having a good day going forward. You can't just be that liability where your starting point is high and wide and that's it, unless you are delivering either on a top team or at an incredibly high level week in and week out. And he's not really to that age yet where you're going to have consistency, right? He's young. And so he's got to work through all that. So I think he's got some limitations. I do think he could be as good as we want him to be, but he quickly rose from one season at Ajax to a Barcelona to now an AC Milan that you go, there's probably a big jump there of like hype. And then also like living up like him now.
Right. Which is hard. We've been there. It's hard. Yeah, and I would jump in and say that Ronald Koeman, who brought him to Barcelona from Ajax, came out recently, within the last month or two, to say that he still can't believe that Barcelona is electing to essentially start Sergi Roberto and like let Serginho Dest just go when he thought that he had more potential in future than Sergi Roberto. All right, let's keep this moving. I want to talk about, we have a whole bunch of people to talk about. Then we want to get into our roster and really kind of, again, I want to remind everybody on Wednesday, right when the roster comes out, we are going to have an emergency podcast. So be ready for that on Wednesday. Turn on your notifications, either on podcasts or on the YouTubes. But Folarin Balogun, he makes Liga history in the French league, the youngest to hit 16 goals in their first season in Liga, 21 years and 252 days. Reims, his club, that's being managed by a 30-year-old named Will Still, a Belgian who has English parents but grew up in Belgium, who kind of turned this football manager career and going to school to learn about how to be better at football and understanding all the intricacies and subtleties. Gets the job. It's an unbelievable story. And they're 16 games unbeaten since he took over, which is insane, including beating Monaco 1-0 this past weekend. And Balogun scored his 16th goal. And it was a very good goal. He actually had a couple other chances too that maybe on another day he buries to get a hat trick. Jonathan David, actually, Canadian international, got a hat trick for Lille in their crazy 3-3 draw against Lyon. That was 0-0 at half and ended up 3-3. Timo Weah played right back this time instead of left back.
Yay.
So I wondered, Timo Weah getting a ton of experience. He could have maybe done a little bit better on the second goal with Alexander Lacazette. But ultimately, he seems okay. I don't know how comfortable he looks, but he's getting some valuable minutes, and that's something to be proud of. But that was a hell of a game and one worth watching for sure. I don't know if you want to talk about Ricardo Pepi. His team lost 1-0 to Georgi Mihalovic's AZ Alkmaar 1-0. Pepi, for me, I watched a good portion of this game, Heath, and I really like
a lot of it, right?
He was, but there were moments where he's very good at picking the pocket of the opposing six, where it looks like he's up high, and then all of a sudden he sneaks in and pokes it, and it creates attacks. And I like that he's consistently doing that. And I've seen him do that a few times this season, especially for Groningen. And I like that. He's in his movement in the box has been excellent. And another thing too is he's demanding the ball a lot, and he wants the ball. He's getting into that point where he's starting to kind of yell at his teammates and throw up his arms. I think he's got to be careful of that. That's never a good look. So Mihalovic came on as a super sub. in this game and had a great pass that should have led to a goal. Didn't end up a good save by the Groningen goalkeeper. I think we got Joe Scally ended up playing 90, I believe. And I think Mönchengladbach lost. I meant to have that one ready to go.
No, I think, again, it's a good update on to where we're going for the national team. Obviously, still a number of pieces. I've talked to a couple of players that are on initial rosters, but even they haven't been notified into the final roster for this camp. Haven't gotten any insight into how many players, the overall objectives of the camp or any of those types of things. Obviously, the overall objective is to win games. But, I'm interested to see who that comes out. I don't expect just to jump into that.
Yeah. Do you think there are going to be any surprises? Or Josh Sargent got to play 45. I thought he looked pretty sharp for Norwich in their 1-0 loss against Sunderland. I bring him in.
Yeah, he's one you want to keep close. Tyler Casing, Haji with 2 goals and an assist. There's CCV scored. There's just a lot of players that, if you look at like 26, 27 player roster, though, I'm wondering if there's anybody that's really going to be a huge surprise in terms of a young player.
Taylor Booth, I think, would be the big surprise. He didn't play for Utrecht this week, but he was on the bench.
Okay.
So I wonder,
I think they're probably getting him back to full health.
Yeah, I wouldn't rush him back in either, but I wonder if that's enough. If Anthony Hudson and the staff's like, hey, if you can make the bench or whatever, we're going to call you in and see how it goes. And if we know that you're going to be in line for playing before this thing starts, then they'll bring you in. Taylor Booth would be the one. I do want to talk about CCV, Cameron Carter-Vickers, mainly because his coach at Celtic, Anže Postecoglou, he said that Cameron Carter-Vickers is the best defender in the Scottish Premiership. And I know that the 25-year-old center back just scored this weekend over Hearts. But this is the quote from his manager. He's been outstanding from the moment we signed him. He's a really great defender in our back four. You need to do a lot of one-on-one defending. Physically, he's as strong as anyone. He's got great awareness, and he's a really intelligent footballer in terms of understanding the game and the areas he needs to protect. He's got a bit of everything.
That's great.
Okay, I take that. And obviously, this is a coach is always going to hype up his own players. Even taking that into consideration, then let's bring him in and let's start him. Let's start him. Let's start Chris Richards. Maybe bring in a Mark McKenzie, Eric Palmer. Let's just see what these guys are. Austin Trusty could be a surprise for some. And Birmingham has been not as hot as of lately for Austin Trusty, but we're looking at center backs. So let's look at them then.
Yeah, I fully agree. And those are players like him, Mark McKenzie, that they tend to blend into games, and so maybe we underrate them in terms of their value. Right? They're not big, towering center backs that win every single ball in the air and have this physical presence that's different. They read the game really well. They tackle well. They're good on their feet. They can cover ground. So I agree with you. Bring him in and sort of see what that's like. He's obviously playing at an extremely high level right now. Let's see, give him a couple games and see how he fits in. And can he be more than just the partner to the left center back and be that leader?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who steps up and gets called in first, and then who starts, right? And obviously we'll have special podcasts with our thoughts about that moving forward. All right, let's focus. Before we go to MLS, though, Joe Scally started and played 90 minutes for Mönchengladbach in their 3-0 loss to Leipzig. So we have a lot of options at the right back spot, including Timo Weah. So we'll throw it out there, see what happens. But let's talk a little MLS. We're in the third week of action, and a couple young players stepping up. Atlanta United's Caleb Wiley, 2 goals and an assist for Atlanta against Charlotte. Charlotte are not doing well, lost their first 3 games after a pretty promising expansion year last year. It felt like they were going to build off of that, and it's been quite the opposite. St. Louis, though, talking about expansion teams, won their first 3 games of the season, coming back once again to beat the Portland Timbers this time around. They've got a little Goonies Never Say Die vibes to them.
Only 3 teams have done that, and now they're on path to potentially be the only team if they go 4 straight as an expansion team. 4 straight
wins. I
mean,
and at this point, why wouldn't they? Let me see who they're playing next week. St. Louis have the San Jose Earthquakes at home, but the Earthquakes, after losing their first one against Atlanta, have won 2 straight under Luchi Gonzalez, former assistant coach for the national team at the World Cup. So they're starting to they're looking better, the Quakes, and definitely look a little bit more organized. And so I talked to Luchi the other day, pretty proud of him for getting this opportunity. And
yeah,
he said to come down to training anytime. So that'll be my coffee shop with the national team coaches example for you, Heath, Pearce. But yeah, some good games in MLS. LAFC with a big 4-0 win against the Revs.
Yeah, both teams unbeaten. That was a huge one that I thought would be a lot closer, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And Denis Bouanga, who everybody's predicting is on like an MVP path before the season started, where a lot of people did, is certainly off to an unbelievable start.
Yeah, it's good times in LAFC. I mean, every time they pan to Steve Cherundolo and Mark Dos Santos and Ante Razov, the coaching staff for LAFC, and they're just
growing hair back. He's not losing hair. He's growing hair back. You know? He's in a real cushy,
he's in a good spot
right now.
Yeah, any bald spots are now disappearing for Steve.